So, when a lot of people come and visit Ireland for the first time, they say things like, the names of places are really hard to pronounce, like Youghal and Drogheda, Inistioge, Graiguenamanagh, and also, the names of places are so interesting. Now, today's video isn't negative in any way, just educational, but the names of places in Ireland, specifically townslands, in the English language, are not really that interesting at all, because they weren't translated from the Irish language most of the time. They were anglicised, so half of them, or the majority of them I should say, are made up words that mean nothing at all. The point of today's video is to show you townslands in the Irish language and show you the meaning behind them and show how a lot of these anglicised words don't tell the story, don't tell the history, and essentially, unfortunately, mean nothing at all. With the next few examples, I'm going to show you how important it is to know the names of locations in Ireland in the Irish language, not in the English language, because as I said, a lot of these places are anglicised, not translated. So the Irish language versions tell the story, tell the history of that place. I'm going to prove it to you right now. Example number 1. This townsland is called Killahee. So what does Killahee mean? Well, it doesn't really mean anything at all, to be honest. It's an anglicisation of the original Irish name, which is Kil-Acha. Kil meaning church, Acha meaning field, so Churchfield. Now, like any Irish townsland, it wasn't just named Kil-Acha or Churchfield for the sake of it. There's nearly always a meaning behind this. And the meaning behind this townsland of Kil-Acha or Churchfield is at the other side of this gate. This is Killahee Graveyard. In this field, about 500 years ago, was an old church. There's actually still some of the ruins of it here. As you can see, it's also a graveyard. And even my great-grandparents, my great-grandfather, in fact, is buried here. So behind me here are some of the remains of what's left of the 16th century church. It's said that this church was around during the mid-1500s, during the dissolution of monasteries by King Henry VIII. That's why it is so important to know the names of these townslands or towns or villages or counties in the Irish language. These are the words or the names that will tell you the history or the stories behind that area. The anglicised English versions will just tell you nothing. They're not translations, they are anglicisations the majority of the time. That is point number 1 proven, I think. The next townsland we're visiting is called Powlinassey. What does Powlinassey mean to you? Very little, I'd say. Same as myself. That's because it's another anglicisation. So Powlinassey is an anglicisation of the Irish name Pól an Asa. Pól meaning pool or hole, and Asa meaning waterfall. And lo and behold, a waterfall in the townsland of Powlinassey or Pól an Asa. This is another reason why it's so important to learn the names of Irish towns, cities, townslands or counties in Ireland in the Irish language. These are the ones with the stories and the history behind them, with the meaning behind them. The English or anglicised versions may as well just mean nothing. Powlinassey doesn't mean anything to anyone. Pól an Asa means the waterfall, and there you have it. A waterfall. It makes sense. So the next townsland is called Ballyknockbeg, which is an anglicisation of Baile an Cnoc Beag, which means townsland of the small hill. And would you believe, nearly the entire townsland is on, I'd call this a big hill myself, but we won't argue about it. Now, for people coming to Ireland for the first time, this is where things can get a little bit confusing, and this is road signs. If you're not from Ireland and don't speak the Irish language, you would presume that Kilkenny is the English version of Kilquinnig. That is not the case at all, I'm afraid. The English version of Kilquinnig is Church of Canis. We've seen Kill before, meaning church, and Ciannig is in reference to Ciannoch or Canis. Kilkenny is the anglicised version of Kilkennig, but not the English translation. Now, I'm aware that this can be confusing for people because if you don't speak the Irish language, you're probably going to presume that Kilkennig in English is Kilkenny, but it's not. Church of Canis. So Kilkenny is actually named after Saint Canis, who is the patron saint of Kilkenny, who is said to have converted some of the pagan population to Christianity. So just a note for people that on the road signs in Ireland, it's very rarely a direct translation. The majority of the time, it's just the English anglicised version, not the translation from Irish. So I hope you enjoyed this video on the importance of Irish place names in the Irish language. Because as we've seen so far, if you're looking at the anglicised English versions, like Kilkenny, Killahy, Howlanassie, Ballyknockbeg. What do them names tell you? They tell you absolutely nothing about the area. What you really need to do is look at the Irish name and then translate that into English. So with Kilkennig, we have Church of Canis. With Killacca, we have Churchfield. With Polon Assa, we have the waterfall. Or with Ballion-Knuckbeog, we have the townsland of the small hill. Like, these Irish names tell you so much history and so many old stories from that area. If you're just looking at the current day anglicized versions, unfortunately, it's really sad that we've lost these old Irish names, because these anglicized versions, they tell you nothing. They might seem interesting if you're not from Ireland initially when you see them, but they're really not. It's the Irish language versions that are interesting. They're the ones with the history, they're the ones with the stories. So I just wanted to show people the importance of learning these names in the Irish language and not be too hung up on maybe not being able to pronounce the English version, because at the end of the day, the most important part about Irish place names is As Gaeilge in the Irish language. Thanks a million, lads. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos based on Irish history and just Ireland in general. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.